Hello and welcome back. My name is Mark Atkinson, and you are about to watch the third video in a 6 training video series that was created for you and your work as a PAC attorney. If you watch the first 2 videos, the first one is on business owners mindset, second one on cash flow management. This one, the third video, will be on pricing and innovative fee arrangements. Specifically, I'll be talking about value billing. So here we are. Let's get started. So a couple quick reminders, and I'll keep drilling this in with each of the videos probably. You can do well and do good. You can make a proper living with a mission-driven law practice with good business with a good business model. Secondly, stop thinking like a lawyer. Start thinking like a business owner. You are a business owner, like it or not. And your mission is more powerful when your practice is sustainable. And I'm specifically talking about financial sustainability. So the business side, the financial side is important, and you'll need to pay attention to it. And that's what these videos are all about. So this video, as I mentioned, is about innovative pricing strategies, and it's based on a publication created by the Justice Entrepreneurs Project, JEP Chicago, back in 2022. It's called the Pricing Toolkit, and it was created by 2 attorneys, Lauren Lester and Jess Bednars. Lauren Lester is a solo attorney in Denver, Colorado. And Jess Bednars is an attorney. She's actually in Denver now. She used to be in Chicago. Jess is a director at ILES, the Institute on the Advancement for the American Legal System. They're doing good work out there. So a lot of these ideas came from Lauren and Jess, and you can Google the Pricing Toolkit, JEP Chicago, and you can find it online. It's a great resource. So before we start talking about value billing or any other kind of innovative pricing strategy, let's spend a minute on hourly billing, which, for better or worse, we're probably relatively familiar with what you bill per hour. And the question is, how do you set your billing rate? Well, one way is to see what other attorneys are billing, and how would you find that out? Well, you could ask around, for sure. One other way to find out is Clio, the practice management software company. Clio does an annual survey of what attorneys bill, and it's based on different practice areas, and it's a statewide average. But you can see here what's highlighted. Lawyers in North Carolina typically charge, again, depending on practice area, they charge between $83 an hour and $418 an hour. Again, that's a statewide average. And the average overall is $295. In the District of Columbia, you've got different types of attorneys, and their average is over $400 an hour, whereas in West Virginia, the average statewide is $195 an hour. So it does depend on your practice area and where you practice, what state you're in. So you can see from this slide, and again, this is taken from Clio's average, that has the different practice areas, and this is specific to North Carolina. So different practice areas, and this was just from a year or two ago, what the average billing rate was across the state. And again, what folks bill in Charlotte might be different from what they bill in Rocky Mount. But the statewide average for, let's say, juvenile law, $83 an hour, and intellectual property is $337 an hour. Immigration's $306 an hour. Bankruptcy is $354 an hour. Criminal defense, $147 an hour. Again, just some quick caveats. This is a statewide average, so it depends on your client mix, your practice area, your location. But these are just averages to give you some idea of what the hourly billing rate, what it might be for each practice area. So after just having spent a few minutes talking about billable hours, the hourly billing rate, which is, as I mentioned, sort of the standard in a lot of our profession, I'm going to talk about some of the problems of the billable hour and why I'm advocating for a different approach. One, the billable hour, there's a lack of transparency and predictability. Basically, you're telling your client how much you're going to pay is whatever you're going to have to pay. It creates uncertainty for clients who may have a budget and you're telling them it's going to take however long. You don't know what the final cost is going to be. It's going to take as many hours as it's going to take. So there's a lack of transparency, which could discourage potential clients who aren't willing to write a blank check. Often with billable hours, there might be a conflict of interest or misaligned incentives, in that, like it or not, with billable hours, there is an incentive to put more hours on a case and to not necessarily be efficient. So efficiency is discouraged in a sense, and we may not think of it in those blunt terms, but that can be the unintended consequence of billable hours, that you're racking up your hours at the at the client's expense. I'm not saying everybody does that, but that's the potential for misaligned incentives. And also with billable hours, you're limited. There's only 24 hours a day. That is, if you want to work 24 hours a day. So there actually is a cap for what you can earn with your billable hours. And increasing your hourly rate is cutting yourself off from some of those clients that you want to be serving. So it reduces accessibility. And that sort of mentality, that goes back to misaligned incentives, it can have a negative impact on your well-being. You feel like you have to be tracking your time, billing your hours, and it can be to your overall detriment and dissatisfaction with the work that you're doing. So those are some of the problems with the billable hour. So some of the common myths that get associated with hourly billing is that it's the only way that it's been done and the only way that we can offer services. Well, the fact of the matter is fixed fee pricing and value billing has been around. It was used historically, it was used in the past, and an hourly billing is a more recent phenomenon, but it's not the only way that it can be done. And related to that, some folks believe the hourly billing is the only way to be profitable. And depending on your services, the hourly billing might be the way to go. But value-based pricing and fixed fee pricing has been successful, has been shown to be successful for many practices. It's a valid, proven approach, and you can be profitable. Again, I'm not saying it's appropriate in every situation. There are some times when you certainly need to deliver your services on an hourly basis, but there are also some times when it's right and good and appropriate to have, I'll call it value-based pricing, or flat fee or fixed fee pricing. Myth number 3, some folks would say that this sort of pricing is unethical. Well, the ABA rules, and more specifically North Carolina Rules of Professional Conduct, or a formal ethics opinion that was delivered in 2008, says au contraire. These fixed fee pricing is certainly appropriate and ethical, and when you explain that to the client, it can be done, and can be done in a ethical and professional way. We'll talk more about that later. The 4th myth is some folks think that what we do as attorneys has so many variables and contingencies that we can't offer a set fee. We have to do everything hourly. Well, sometimes that is true, but there are many instances, I believe, and different practice areas where we can predict what the workflow is going to be and can offer a set fee, a fixed price, a value-based billing for the value-based price to the client. One example would be the airline industry. When we buy a ticket, it's $500 to fly to wherever. The airline doesn't say, once you arrive at wherever, we'll tell you what your airfare, what that ticket costs based on wind speed, turbulence, availability of a flight crew, congestion at the airport. They figure out all those variables, and they've accounted for them and figured out a set price so that they're going to make money and offer their customers, here's your ticket price to fly from here to there. So that's not a perfect parallel with the legal profession, but there's some principles there that certainly apply to what we do. And some folks would say that set fees, a fixed price, is a race to the bottom. Well, if attorney X is charging $500 to do ABC. I'll charge $475 to do ABC, and I'll get more clients. I won't deny that may happen at times, but transparent pricing are what clients are looking for, and the price is not always the sole factor a client is considering. They're looking for a connection, for quality, for the human touch. So price is certainly important, but set fees are not necessarily a race to the bottom. There are other factors involved. So we've talked about some of the problems and some of the myths of hourly billing, and so what are some of the benefits of value-based pricing, um, of fixed fee pricing? And I'm using some of this interchangeably, and we'll flesh that out as we talk through it. So if you communicate selling your services based on the value rather than on the time, how does that benefit the client? Well, for the client, it's transparent. Um, you're going to tell them what it's going to cost them. It's more predictable, and it can often be more affordable and budget friendly. It empowers the client to know what they're getting into. It's not a blank check. It gives them a choice. It gives them options, and it can make you more accessible to the client. For the lawyer, you're valuing your time, you're valuing yourself, and you're not judging yourself based on your time. And you have more control over what you're doing. And it's an opportunity to increase revenue. You can often get payment up front. There's less administrative time with the constant billing based on your hours. It can often lead to a more predictable cash flow and also less stress. So those are some of the benefits of value-based pricing or fixed fee pricing. So I'm going to talk about cost-based pricing versus value-based pricing. And hourly rates, just a couple things I want to highlight here. Hourly rates really have nothing to do with the client. Instead, they're entirely based on the firm's cost, or really more based on the lawyer's perceived self-worth compared to other lawyers. So oftentimes, and this goes back to how do you set your hourly billing rate? Well, if you know attorney X across town is charging $300 an hour for doing something, you say, well, I'm as good as them, or I'm not as good as them, so I'll charge $300 an hour or $250 an hour. So you're comparing yourself to the other attorney and not to what your client is looking for and what you can deliver to them, to the value. That's one way of looking at value-based pricing versus time-based, or sort of a client-centric versus lawyer-centric. So with cost-based pricing, the first step there is determine your cost, you add a profit margin, and then you assign the price to it. With value-based pricing, your first step is to what is the target market value? What do the potential clients, how do they value this service? From that, you assign an initial price based on that value and what the market can bear, which may be the same, or you might need to make some adjustments. And then you compare your initial pricing to what your effort is or what your cost is, and make sure that your pricing is covering your costs. So one question that comes out of that in step one of the value-based pricing is, how do you determine the target market value? So glad you asked. That's the next slide. So how do you identify what clients value in legal services? Well, first thing that needs to be said is the value is subjective, and it varies from client to client, to be sure. If a client wants something to be done in 2 days versus 2 months, if they need you to be available 24 hours a day, if they have a requirement of high touch and accessibility, that's going to adjust the value of what you provide. Another way is just conducting client interviews and surveys to get feedback on what people value. Analyze past cases to see what made people happy, and think about the outcomes as well. And one thing to consider when we talk about value-based pricing is an hour of doing this may be worth more than an hour of doing that. So if you were purely hourly based pricing and you solved a really, really big problem and your hourly rate was $200 an hour, you would charge $200 to solve that really, really big problem. You just saved the client $1 million. If you solved a simple traffic issue, and this is hypothetical, and it took you an hour, that's $200 as well. So a very simple traffic issue that was in the value or um, uh, the magnitude was in the hundreds of dollars. You got $200 for that. You solved a major business issue that was in the millions of dollars for a client, $200. So if you were purely based on hourly billing, you'd get $200 for both cases. Now, I would say that the value that you provide to save that client $1 million is higher, and you should charge more. And charge more in good conscience. It has to be reasonable, but there is a difference in the value that you provided in that 1 hour versus the hour of doing something else at a lower value. So that may guide your services and help you focus your practice and your pricing strategy. So think about your clients, what they perceive as value. And I realize as a PAC attorney, you're bound to hourly billing at $65 an hour as it currently stands. So these sorts of steps, this sort of thinking, is to the extent that you have other parts of your practice that are not constrained by the IDS clients or the $65 an hour billing rate, but you may explore some of these pricing strategies to serve those clients, and it can put you in greater financial stability, so that you can do that PAC work and ensure your financial sustainability and stability. So we just talked about value-based pricing and how you determine the value that clients attribute to a service. Just some other actionable steps uh, as you develop a pricing strategy based on value as opposed to just purely hourly. Develop a pricing menu. Look at your different segments of your clients, the values, and you might have $300 for this, $800 for that, $1,500 for this other thing, based on your service that you're providing, the clients that you're serving. Um, and then the second half there is, test it, get feedback, and revise. Be willing to revise. If I forget now what the numbers I threw out there, but $500, $800, $1,500. If after 6 months of doing that, it's not working for you, you can change. You're not fixed at those numbers, and you can revise them based on feedback that you're getting. Iterate, I guess, is the point there. Iterate your pricing model to align it with your client values and your firm's financial needs. So a couple of strategies. This is just introduction to that. We're going to dive in a little deeper in the next couple of slides, but there's different ways to price, strategies to price how you deliver your service. One example is fixed fee by task. I will write a letter, I'll write a demand letter, and it will cost $200. I will attend a meeting on your behalf. Uh, the meeting will last an hour and a half and will cost $250. I will do a research and write a legal memo. It's going to cost $500, whatever. So fixed fee by task, or you could say fixed fee by phase. Okay, I will handle it. I will from start up through mediation, and that's approximately 6 months. It's going to cost this much for phase number one. After that, phase number one's over, we'll reassess and look at phase number two, or however your service, your practice, there's different phases depending on what you're doing, obviously. Fixed fee by case, that says you're going to do A through Z, and it's going to cost so much. Another model or strategy approach for pricing is a subscription model and this works often with business clients. I will bill you a fixed amount every month and be available for you, 4 hours every month, where I can review a contract, draft a demand letter, or whatever. So I bill you monthly. I'm available to do certain things for you, and that's how we'll operate. So I said we would dig down a little deeper, and these are the next couple of slides are from the pricing toolkit that Jess and Lauren created. And again, you can find that. You can Google it, and it's free, available. It's 70, 80 pages, so you might not want to print it out. But if you have a digital, get an electronic copy of it, you'll have that whole document, and it's worth getting. So fixed fee by task. I talked about attorney charges set price for the completion of each task. It's well suited for most practice areas. It may be review a contract, draft a petition, appearing in court. That's a lends itself well to a fixed fee by task. I'll do X and I'll charge you Y, and it's not based on hours, but I'll do this for you, and this is how much it's going to cost. Fixed fee by phase. We talked about that. Most practice areas, but especially effective in civil litigation. So maybe it's from initial case review. I'll spend 4 hours in initial case review, and I'll charge you X dollars. And then the next phase is discovery, and that typically takes 8 hours, and I'll charge you this amount of time. So there's ways of initial case discovery, initial case review, discovery, and then filing, and each phase has a different fixed fee attached to it. In your mind, you know how many hours it'll take. But to the client, you'll say that's going to be $500, $300, $200, $100. So you're letting them know what it's going to take. And this slide talks about fixed fee by case. I mentioned that. It's well suited for services like an uncontested divorce, domestic relation issues, a real estate closing, visas, wills and trusts, things that are where you have a good handle on how much it's going to take to get it done, whatever the it is. So fixed fee by case, where you do A through Z for a set amount. Again, it's well suited for certain kind of cases where you know what it takes to get done. Recurring fixed fee, or also known as subscription fee, in a litigation environment, that's where typically it's maybe a case that will last longer than 6 months, and generally maybe it's you think it through, and it's going to be at least $10,000 of your time, and you say, okay, for the next 6 months, I'll say for the next 5 months, I'll charge you $2,000 a month, and then over the course of those 5 months, it ends up covering your costs and giving them a fixed fee so they know what they're getting into. Again, it may be appropriate in litigation cases that are over long term, where you provide a monthly fixed fee that the client can budget for, and you do what you need to do, and they know what they need to pay each month. On a transactional basis, the same sort of model and this often works with small businesses and nonprofits. It could be in estate planning or other scenarios, different services where you're but you're charging on a monthly basis. It could be quarterly or annually, but typically monthly. You're charging a set amount on a recurring basis, and you're available to do certain things every month. Maybe it's to review 3 contracts, to attend 1 meeting, to write 2 demand letters, whatever it might be, and you're providing those services, and you're getting paid for it on a regular recurring basis. So that's a subscription model in a transactional environment. Contract recurring fee, similar. You charge initial fee for the creation of a document, and maybe there's some licensing agreement in there where you get some additional fee out of that. Over to the left there's 2 law firms that use subscription pricing, and you can go to their website. So K. Bennett Law, LLC, she's sort of a pioneer of the subscription model, and then Spiro Law, he uses subscription pricing as well. So and you can Google subscription pricing attorneys. Matthew Kurbis is actually Kerbis. I think he's in Chicago. Matthew Kurbis does a lot of subscription pricing as well. So you can look to see how they present it on their website, and something you may want to model your own practice, your own website after. So a couple more. I won't go. There's contingencies, reverse contingency, fee shifting. you can pause the screen here and read a little more detail if you wanted to. And again, these are specific practice areas. These might be more better suited for personal injury or breach of contract, debt collection, things like that. So I won't go into all that. Flat fee plus contingency, reverse contingency, and a holdback. Again, I'll let you read the detail on that and how those work and what they're suited for, the different practice areas. Success fee, and then this value adjustment line. This was, I'll pause here for a minute. This is interesting. There's a law firm called Valorum, and they have a fee arrangement where they allow their client to adjust the fee up or down based on their satisfaction with the service. So that's just an interesting concept. Again, may not apply to all practices, it may not apply to your law firm, but just an interesting and innovative way for clients to, in a sense, tip you by bumping up your fee, or if they're dissatisfied, reducing your fee by some small amount. I say small amount, I think it was 5 or 10% up or down. Their experience has shown that people were much more likely to tip up. Again, depends on your client satisfaction. If you're a good attorney and provide good services, maybe that'll be your story as well. So just some interesting different strategies and approaches for pricing and thinking about how you bill your services. So diving into a case study here. Again, there's a lot of detail here, and this is from the pricing toolbook, but in the scenario of pricing a basic will, and the pricing toolkit has other scenarios, this is just talking about a basic will. So the first step is determine the value. How do you determine the value? And this goes back to what we talked about earlier. What value can you offer through the delivery of the service? Think about your client's typical goals. You can memorialize their goals, help the client pass their legacy to the next generation, give them peace of mind, provide information to all their answers, explain their rights, support loved ones, give them a sense of security. What additional value can you add or offer? You can make your consultations easy. You can provide an FAQ section on your website. Provide the fees up front so the clients know what they're going to pay. Offer payment plans, flexible hours. So these are all ways of setting the value of what you're providing. In addition, maybe you have a client portal, or you create a monthly or a regular e-newsletter. You think about your fee type. Rather than doing it hourly, you've decided you can create greater value for your client if it's a flat fee. What market research have you done? So all this is under the very first step of determining the value. What are other lawyers offering the service for? All that's part of research and determining the value. The second step is assigning a price. So what are you going to offer this basic will, all those services that are included, all that value, you're going to offer it for $650. So that's step 2. Step 3 is identifying your target monthly revenue. So you've set your $650 for a basic will, set that aside. What's your target monthly revenue? Well, if your monthly business expenses are $1,500 a month, that's your overhead, your subscriptions, your accounting fees, you're setting aside for taxes. You've got a salary of $7,625 a month. You want a little under $500 a month of profit to set aside for a rainy day. So all that adds up to $9,581 a month. So on the revenue side, you need to generate, or you have, based on these numbers, you need to generate $9,581 a month to meet your target revenue. So you look at all that together, and step number 4 is assign your effort and adjust. And when I say assign the effort, like how much effort will it take for you to create that value, that basic will with all that value that goes into it? And this is, small amount of effort and doesn't quantify it a whole lot. You might want to go into it like, well, actually, how many hours? Is that 10 hours of your time? But it's a small amount of effort in terms of small, medium, or large. And the next question is important. If this is the only service you offered, how many basic wills could you do a month? So this attorney says they could do 30 basic wills a month. So if it's a small amount of effort and they can do 30 a month, they needed to earn $9,581. They needed to generate that much revenue, $9,581 a month, divided by 30 per month. Then their efforts 319, or that's their. They need to at least bill it out at 319. So they're billing it out at 650. They needed to bill it out at least at 319. So 650 is greater than 319, so that's good. This price will work for your business. And it actually shows you that you could price it down. I'm not suggesting you do this, but if you build that basic will at $400 an hour, you would still meet your target revenue, assuming you did 30 a month. But that puts pressure on marketing. So if you kept it at 650 a month and you only did maybe 18 or 20, I think the math would still work out. If you did 20 a month as opposed to 30, you would still make your target revenue. So that's a bunch of math, but the point is, as you price it, you do need to make sure that you're doing enough of the volume to meet your target revenue and to cover your expenses. So enough of math for now. So additional considerations when we talk about value billing and fixed fee pricing, flat fee pricing, is client screening and expectation management, ensuring it's a good fit. So um, value billing doesn't make sense in every circumstance. It depends on the practice area, depends on the client and their needs and the services that you're offering. I believe it can be offered in more services than we typically do, but I do recognize there are times when hourly billing is the right and appropriate thing for the client and for you. Uh, Another important thing to consider and to remember is when you're drafting your engagement agreement that you have to be transparent about your pricing and comprehensive in your explanation. And we'll get to it in just a minute, but 2008 Formal Ethics Opinion number 10 talks about what you need to say in your engagement agreement to make sure you're doing it the right way. And related to that is, say you have a flat fee, a fixed fee, and for some reason you don't do all of what you said you were going to do. You need to be able to handle refund or any kind of dispute and think through best practices for handling those sorts of issues and managing client expectations and resolving issues. So to make this work, you've got to leverage technology to make value-based billing and value-based pricing work. The technology is part of it, and streamlining your operations. I'll talk about that here in just a minute. So here's the Formal Ethics Opinion number 10 from 2008. I know you can't read this, but this opinion sets forth the key ethical obligations when charging and collecting legal fees, surveys the opinions on legal fees, and reconciles the holdings, and provides model provisions for fee agreements that satisfy the requirements, the rules of professional conduct and ethics opinion. So it is out there. You can find it at ncbar.gov, 2008 FEO number 10. And here's just one example of the text that you would want to have in your engagement letter with your client if you're doing a flat fee or value-based pricing. So as a condition of employment of the lawyer, a client agrees to pay the flat fee to do the following specific legal work: initial case review, draft the complaint, file the petition, represent, on the case that includes steps A, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, ABC. And then also part of that text in your engagement letter, you would have this language. The flat fee is the entire payment for the specified legal work to be performed, regardless of the amount of time that it takes the lawyer to perform the legal work. If you get it done in 10 hours or 100 hours or 2 hours, they pay that full amount. The flat fee will be earned by lawyer immediately upon payment. Will be deposited in the lawyer's business account rather than the trust account. That's one advantage right there that I would endorse. I would recommend to you. And then if the lawyer's representation ends and the client will not be entitled to a refund unless the legal work was not completed, in which case a proportionate refund would be owed. And you need to, and this is a case where the flat fee cannot be excessive, it needs to be reasonable. So there's more sample language in the formal ethics opinion that you can find online at the State Bar website. So engagement agreements, important how that's written. I talked about leveraging technology. AI is a tool. You want to use it ethically. It can streamline and make your services more efficient. So the ethical use of AI is part of that leveraging. Maximize the use and the capability of your practice management software for efficiency. And then there's this notion of process mapping. And this graphic here is a sample initial phase of a custody case. I know you can't see it, but the point here is that there's different steps that are required in a custody case, from petition, case info, and initial case review. There's different documents that have to be signed, and just breaking the case down or the matter down into different steps. Who's going to do it? What has to be done? How long it takes? That's called process mapping. This is another example of a credit card defense case involving fraud, and there's certain assumptions that are listed. And again, this is a screenshot from the pricing toolkit that I have mentioned already that kind of steps you through. But basically, the point is breaking the matter down into each step and estimating how much time it's going to take. And that gives you a way to make sure you're pricing things appropriately and you know what it is that you're doing. And it creates efficiency. You're not reinventing the wheel every time. It helps you price your services and it helps you be more efficient. So a few takeaways as we wrap up. Value-based pricing, flat fee billing, is not always possible. Sometimes you have to use hourly billing. But when you can, try value billing, try flat fee pricing. It's client-centric, and it's often better for you as the attorney. It's certainly ethical, and it can be profitable. So give it a shot. All right, that's the end. Hope this was helpful. Contact me at mark@innovationlegal.org. That's my website, innovationlegal.org, for the Legal Incubator, or you can give me a call. I'd love to chat with you if you have questions or want to talk. That's a picture of Joan of Arc. I believe it was in Notre Dame in Paris. She's praying for you to serve your clients well and that you would consider implementing some of these innovative pricing strategies for your sake and for the sake of your clients. So thanks. That's all for today. Hope you have a great rest of the day.